What's up y'all, P2 Powers back at you with another video. How is everyone doing today? Now this video isn't meant for the RuneScape veterans out there. Although y'all experienced players are more than invited to watch and leave feedback in the comments, this is more of a beginner friendly introduction into the majestic world of RuneScape. And I know this is a very short video, but I plan on expounding on most of the things I discuss in later installments. Starting things off, RuneScape is the nickname of the planet where the game takes place. The actual name of the planet is Gielinor. The nickname RuneScape was chosen by humans after the discovery of runes that were left scattered across the world by Guthix, a being of immense power that discovered the planet. Because of this, RuneScape and Gielinor are used interchangeably. When you look at the history of Gielinor, it's split up into ages. These ages are periods of time that start and end with a specific event, such as the discovery of Gielinor marking the start of the first age. RuneScape is currently in its 6th age. Since ages are bound by events rather than time, they vary in how many years they last. The 1st and 3rd ages lasted roughly 4,000 years each, the 2nd and 4th ages lasted about 2,000 years each, then there's the 5th age which lasted a minuscule 169 years. I should point out that although the 5th age was tiny in time frame compared to its counterparts, it brought major changes to the world. Just as a note, it appears the RuneScape calendar is similar to the one in the real world, having 365 days in a year. There are some differences, such as having 10 months with their own unique names instead of 12, but it's still kinda cool how similar the two calendars are. The world of Gielinor is the home to many incredible life forms. Besides humans, there are humanoid mortals like elves, dwarves, fairies, ogres, giants, goblins, trolls, and witches. There are also beasts such as dragons, demons, dinosaurs, griffins, gargoyles, unicorns, and giant worms. There are even animals you would recognize from Earth like penguins, monkeys, rats, snakes, sharks, and bears. Races such as elves, dwarves, vampires, and gnomes have quest lines dedicated to them. Though there are exceptions, most animals, beasts, and the various races tend to stay with their own kind, and there have even been fights between different groups. Sometimes these battles were between races, but the major wars were between beliefs. That's because mortals aren't the only beings to inhabit the planet. There are also those who have ascended to become something more powerful than the stereotypical mere mortal. Though few in numbers, these gods, as they are so often called, have shaped the history of the world greater than most would think possible or reasonable. The gods that occupy Gielinor don't do so in unity. Though some try their best to coexist, the vast majority of damage and death that has befallen RuneScape has been because of the petty bickering of these gods and their followers. These fights would ultimately lead to the God Wars of the 3rd Age. The God Wars lasted for thousands of years and caused the death of millions. One unforeseeable outcome at the time was the banishment of all gods from Gielinor by Guthix, though they would return, but that's a story we'll have to get into another time. Whether present or not, the effect of the gods' existence was and is felt constantly. That's because most of, if not all, major settlements in Gielinor pledge their allegiance to one god or another. For instance, most humans, especially in the kingdoms of Mistalin, Asgarnia, and Kandarin, follow the god of order and wisdom, Seren. Because of this, there's constant tension between humans and creatures like demons or vampires, since they are followers of Zamorak, the god of chaos, and rival of Seren. Although I guess it doesn't take a god to bring tension between those groups. Some of the followers of other gods include gnomes, seers, fairies, and moss giants who follow Guthix, the god of balance, elves, grinwalls, and crystal shapeshifters being the followers of Seren, the goddess of peace. The Aviansi and some humans follow Armadyl, and Aviansi himself that ascended to godhood as the god of justice. Goblins, ogres, and other so-called low-level intelligent creatures follow the god of war known as Bandos, who gets to keep that name until he meets Kratos. Then Zaros, the god of control, who is a fan favorite amongst many players, actually created a race called Nihil to serve him, next being the most famous one. There also exist beings even more powerful than those gods, called Elder Gods. The Elder Gods created Gielinor before Guthix ever arrived. There's not a ton of information on the Elder Gods, but still more than I want to get into in this particular video. I'm sure I'll get to it in a future installment though, especially since God Wars Dungeon 3 has been announced as the Elder God Wars Dungeon. There are also other beings such as Sliske that are basically as powerful as a god, even though they aren't a god, but again, we'll save that for a future video. Next up, I want to briefly go over the 6 signature heroes, although there are 7 when the player character is included. Signature heroes are meant to kinda be your in-game buddies, I guess. They have their own quest lines to follow, and you can even find some of them randomly hanging out in-game. I'll try to leave the quests in the cards up above as I do them on the channel. There's Ariane, the magic user, Ozan the thief, but a good guy, think Robin Hood or Aladdin, Sir Owen, an elite member of the White Knights, the Raptor, a mysterious warrior who actually occasionally shows up and kills slayer monsters by you, Linza, the fantastic smith that eventually turns into a boss, and Xenia, the retired adventurer and mentor to the other heroes. Although not the most beloved addition to the game in many players' eyes, the signature heroes are still an interesting part of the game that deserve at least some spotlight. Moving on, there are some skills in the game that are flooded with lore. Dungeoneering is the first one that comes to mind, as it is basically a lore-based skill. The skill is done by exploring dungeons in RuneScape. The main dungeon is known by the Fremennik as Daemonheim and is an old dragonkin stronghold. The main bits of lore come from journals that can be attained by killing bosses and monsters on dungeoneering floors. Most of the dungeon's lore can be found in the Chronicles of Bilrach. This journal was written by Armadyl and tells of his journey through Daemonheim looking for the rift. You can also go through 3 elite dungeons to train dungeoneering, and they each have their own background. The newest skill, Archaeology, is another lore-based skill, as the dig site quest plays a tiny role in the skill. There are also mysteries in each dig site that use quest-like features such as puzzles and lore, if you consider lore a feature like I do anyway. I'm still training the skill myself and haven't tackled many of the mysteries, so I can't give too much detail yet anyway, but I can say that gargoyles are involved. Finally, I want to briefly go over quest lines or quest series. Quests are the backbone to the game. If you don't have quests, you don't have RuneScape. I enjoy things like skilling, bossing, slayer, and what have you, but without quests, I would have never returned to the game. There are far too many quest lines to get into today. I just want to mention some of the most famous ones and my personal favorite. The Elf series are the first quests that come to mind whenever I think of RuneScape. They do have a reputation for being notoriously annoying, mainly because of the Morning's End Part 2 quest, but making your way through the story until you finally reach Prifddinas, also known as Elf City, is just so fun and rewarding. The Sliske series is very memorable mainly because of how great the Sliske character is, but for also being my introduction to actually having to know how to somewhat use combat in order to advance and complete the series. The maze during the final quest can get in the bin, but other than that, it's a very enjoyable quest line. But my favorite to this day has to be the Myrick series or the Vampire quest line. This is the quest line that I got invested in the most, especially during the last third quest or so. I love the Lord Draken character as well as Vanascula, and I still sing Safalan's name to this day, and I don't even know why. Again, I don't want to go into detail in this video, but I highly recommend taking the time to discover the Myrick quest line as well as all the quest lines. Just do all the quests please, and might as well go ahead and do all the mini quests too while you're at it. That was my very brief introduction into RuneScape lore. I hope this video gives you an idea of all the stories this amazing game has to offer. There were a few names I threw out without explanation like Majorat and Fremennik, only because it messed with the flow of the video when I tried to explain them, so I just cut it. I'll be going into more detail on possibly every one of these topics as the future unfolds. I also already have videos of quests that I've already done and will continue to work on, as well as character essays that dig into the lore of individual characters. If you want to check those playlists out, just click either of those links. Be sure to subscribe for more RuneScape lore and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. I've been P2 Powers, have a good one y'all. I wonder if I even pronounced Elf City right. Close enough.